And good evening, guys, based on the time zones you all are coming from. So, guys, before we start with the session, can you all please give me a quick confirmation if you all can see my screen and hear me loud and clear as well? Perfect. Thank you so much for the confirmation, everyone. So, before we get started, let me quickly introduce myself to you all first so you can be aware of the person you're talking to. So, my name is Neeraj Kheria, and I've been working in this IT industry for more than 13 years now. Let's get started. So our main agenda for today's session, we are going to discuss on the basics of hacking, what exactly it is. Then we are going to discuss about the ethical hacking, what it is. And then we are going to discuss about the security threats, what exactly is Kali Linux. Then we are going to discuss on the ethical hacker skill sets. And then we are going to see a small hands-on on Kali Linux as well. So basically, if we talk about the concepts of ethical hacking, then ethical hacking is simply making sure that we are testing the entire system in finding all the loopholes that we may be present in a given system in terms of network, in terms of the application, database, or anywhere that there is a loophole, we would be able to find it. So it's simply a process of finding all the vulnerabilities in a target system, and then we can simply, so that we can exploit them, we can see how that till what extent these are available and how we can rectify it. And now, why the term ethical hacking is simply getting the access of any other system, server, or the account without their prior permissions. And that exactly is what the hacking is, and why we have ethical word added here, because again, it's a part of the consent. So the ethical hackers takes permission prior to hacking into a system. It is legally made sure that the hacker has no malicious intent. And this is normally performed by making the ethical hackers sign in contracts that legally bind them to work towards the improvement of the security of the company. All right, so if you talk about the, again, that's why they have three types of hackers also available. Like we have white hat, we have gray hat, and then we have black hat hackers. So the ethical hackers, they fall into the category of white hat, and then those operating between ethical and the, we can say, and in terms of the getting the completely unauthorized access, they are the gray hat hackers, and then we have completely black hat hackers, those who have complete malicious intent of stealing the information or getting into the system for non-constructive requirements. Basically, if you talk about the basics of ethical hacking, so ethical hacking has become again really important, especially in last 5 years because of the increased amount of data available in the on the internet. Because especially after the 4G revolution, the amount of data has been increased by more than 20 times, because now everyone is having the access to a 4G enabled smartphone, and then they are simply consuming data at an exponential rate to what we did before. So if we talk about ethical hacking, it's simply a discipline where we can hack the systems by using the consent. And the goals of ethical hacking includes protection of the system and the privacy for any company or even for individual users. Again, simply make sure that the report is transparent and it is used to identify all the vulnerabilities in a given system, whether we have find vulnerabilities in the application, in the network, in the devices, or any simple code that we can found to be vulnerable that can be used to exploit, that can be exploited to get the access into the system. And that exactly is what a job role for any ethical hacker is. And then they have to inform, good evening, Kashyap, glad to see you back. And they have to inform the hardware and software vendors with the identified weaknesses so that they can work accordingly. And ethical hacking, again, information is the most valuable asset. So earlier it used to be land. Now it is the most valuable thing that we can possess is information, not just data, but information. Information as in something that can be used, something useful. And that exactly is why ethical hackers and even the hacking domain is so much in demand. And because any company who is going to leak the user data, they are going to they are going to experience a huge loss in terms of both monetary value, because again the company stocks are going to get impacted, and plus the company's trust factor is going to also be impacted in losing their entire brand trust value. And that has been the case for multiple brands globally since 2015 onwards. And if you talk about what exactly a security threat is, then as an ethical hacker, we have to deal with a bunch of security threats on a daily basis. So any risk that has potential to harm a system or an organization as a whole is a security threat. So basically, there are three main types of security threats available. Like we have physical, we have non-physical, and then we have the human threats. So for example, if we talk about the physical threats, then it includes the internal, external, and human threats. For example, internal can be hardware fire, it can be a fault in the power supply, it can be internal hardware failures. If you talk about external, it can be flood, it can be any natural calamity like floods, fires, earthquakes. And in terms of human, it can be, again, it can be accidental errors, it can be any kind of vandalism, it can be anything based on the human error. And if you talk about the non-physical threat, then it includes every threat that has no physical presence. For example, these are known as logical threats. So if you talk about it, here we have malware, we have phishing, password attacks, we have the DDoS attacks, we have man in the middle, we have drive-by downloads, we have malvertising, and the rogue softwares. So again, these all are worms, viruses, trojans, spyware included in different applications. They are all a part of the non-physical threats. Now, in terms of the preventive measures that we can apply, so every organization must have a logical security measure in place. This can also include like making sure that all the cybersecurity measures are adopted by the companies which operates on an incident response system. And then we can ensure that authentication can be improvised and made more efficient by using multi-factor authentication systems. And we can say authentication methods can be the format of user IDs and strong passwords, including a simple MFA using the smart cards, captures, or the biometrics as well. And when we are trying to protect our system by against the worms, trojans, viruses, again, companies we can curate antiviruses that are made to keep the company's spatial needs in mind. And any company can also find it beneficial to use control measures on the use of external storage devices. And visiting the website that is most likely to download unauthorized programs into the target computer. So any company can avoid doing that. And then we have the intrusion detection, or we can say a prevention system that can be used to protect against the denial of service attacks. And there are some measures too that can be put into place to avoid denial of service attacks that we can place. Now, in terms of the ethical hacker skill sets, then again, there are multiple skill sets required. The ethical hacker needs to be good with the programming languages in terms of HTML, JavaScript, SQL, PHP, Ruby, Bash. So again, these all are the platforms that we are going to use as a part of ethical hacker. And that's why if we have proficiency in these, then we are going to have a really good time going forward. So basically in HTML, because again, why HTML? Because at the end, HTML is the base for creating web pages. So if we are trying to exploit any web pages, then we have to know how the HTML works. Now then we have JavaScript. So when we are working with JavaScript, again, the entire client side scripting language, because again, they are used to read cookies, perform cross-site scripting. So the knowledge of JS is also an integral part of becoming an efficient ethical hacker. All right, so in terms of the hacking tools available, there are multiple hacking tools available. Like we have the NetSparker, we have Burpsuit, we have multiple tools for social engineering, we have multiple tools available for the cryptography as well. We have multiple other tools available for each and every parameters. And since our session is focused on Kali Linux, so basically if we talk about Kali Linux, then Kali Linux is, again, basically it's a Debian based Linux distribution and it is specially crafted for doing the entire network analysis and the penetration. For example, it is mostly used for the network for the penetration testing as well. All right. So there are multiple platforms available. Like we have plethora. These are the entire collection of tools, right? So again, they all are pre-installed with Kali Linux that we can use for getting started. So basically, as we discussed, it's a complete Debian-based Linux distribution that we have the access to. Now, why exactly it is popular in the hackers world? First of all, it's free because Kali Linux has been and will always be free to use. It has more tools that we can think of. We have support for more than 600 different penetration testing tools available here. It is all open source. That means it's being a member of the Linux family. So that's why it has a good community support with no licensing required. It does provide multi-language support. That means although the penetration testing tends to be written in English, it has been ensured that Kali includes multilingual support. That's why it is much popular as well for different countries. And we can completely customize it. So we have again the entire platform has been made easier for for us to customize Kali Linux as per the requirement that we are going to discuss as a part of our focus session. All right, so in terms of getting started with Kali Linux, first of all, we do have to have some kind of requirements. So basically, Kali is supported on i386, AMD 64, and ARM platforms. And we do need to have minimum of 20 GB of the space. We need to have RAM for i386 and AMD 64 architectures. That is, we have the processor families, and we can have a support for VirtualBox or any kind of USB drive as well. And within Kali Linux, there are multiple tools available. Like we have A cracking, we have Nmap, Nessus, THC, Wireshark. So there are multiple tools available. For example, we have A crack. So A crack is basically a suite of tools used to access Wi-Fi and network security. So mainly it focuses on key areas of Wi-Fi security where we can use it for monitoring, attacking, testing, and cracking as well. So we can use it for, again, in terms of monitoring, we can use it for capturing the packet and export or data to text files. We can use it for attacking for de-authentication or fake access points in a given network. And then we can use it for testing the Wi-Fi cards and driver capabilities. And then we have Nmap. So Nmap is basically like a network manager. Let's have a quick overview for all the tools. So network map is also known as the Nmap is basically a security utility for network discovery and security auditing. So basically it simply uses the raw IP packets and to make sure that it can simply identify which hosts are available on the network. So we can say it's used for scanning the entire network. Then we have the THC Hydra. So basically, when we want to apply brute force attack, and or we can say working on a remote authentication service, then we can use THC Hydra. So basically, it can perform rapid dictionary attacks against more than 50 protocols, including FTP, HTTP, HTTPS, SMB, and it can be used for cracking into the web scanners and wireless networks, or even for packet crafters as well. And then we have Nessus. So before we move further, we have Nessus. So Nessus is basically a remote scanning tool that we can use to check computers for security vulnerabilities. So basically, it doesn't scan any, or we can say it doesn't block any vulnerabilities that our computer may have, but it will be able to sniff it out quickly by running more than 1,200 vulnerability checks and throwing alerts when any security patches are going to be made. And then we have Wireshark. So Wireshark is basically an open source tool. So basically we can say it's an open source packet analyzer that we can use free of charge. And using this, we can see the activities on a network from a microscopic level coupled with PCAP file access, or we can use it for getting customizable reports, advanced triggers, alerts, and so on. And That's why it is one of the most widely used tools, or you can say widely used network protocol analyzer for the Linux system out there. All right, so for seeing the hands-on, we have a tool. So we can get connected to our tool here as per the requirement. So for example, let's say we want to get connected. So here we have currently already installed Kali Linux. Let's suppose if we are using any of the cloud platforms, then it is going to be much easier and much quicker for you all to get the access to install Kali Linux as quickly as possible. So for example, let's say we do have the access to AWS. So here we can open up AWS. And here we can go to the EC2 section. So we can open up EC2. So currently the volume that we are going to work on, we have installed, we have provisioned this volume for Kali Linux on AWS itself. So let's say we want to get started. So here we can specify launch instance. And here we can, in the market, first of all, when we launch any of the EC2 instance, we have to choose under which particular AMI we want to use for launching this instance. So for example, here we can choose, let's say Kali Linux. Here we can, in the search bar available on top, we can search for Kali. And if there are any pre-configured AMIs available in the marketplace for Kali by the name of Kali Linux, then we can see the see the result here. So we had four results in marketplace, and then we had 3 results in the community AMIs. So if you want to use, so for example, here we can see here we had a Kali Linux distribution available as a part of community AMIs, or we can also make use of the marketplace available AMIs. And here we can see these two are the distributions available for Kali Linux that we can work on. All right. And let's say we want to choose this one. So here we can click on select, and then we have to define the configuration. So basically, majority of the marketplace AMIs, they are absolutely free of cost. So we don't have to pay a single penny for using these AMIs. So we can use these for free, and then we can get started. Click on continue. We can keep the instance type to T2 micro to keep ourselves on the free tier, because we know that in AWS we get the access to a free tier account that we can use freely for complete 1 year, under where we can use some selective services offered by AWS under a given limitation. And once we're done, we can launch it, and then here we can choose which key pair we want to use for getting the access to Kali Linux via SSH. And once we had deployed it, we would be able to see this kind of instance being deployed, where it is going to take 2 or 3 minutes for this one to be set up, and then we would be getting a public IP for this particular instance if we are deploying it via AWS. And we can copy this entire link. We can use any of the SSH baseline. For example, here we can make use of MobileStorm, we can make use of PuTTY, or if we are using Mac system, then we can go ahead and use the inbuilt SSH client to get connected to the through the SSH of this Kali Linux. So for example, let's say if you want to use the same tool, then we can use this MobileStorm. In case we don't want to use PuTTY, because in case you're using the cloud platform and we don't want to use PuTTY, then we can make use of this tool. So in PuTTY, we have to convert the PM file to .ppk before we can get connected to the console instance, but in MobileStorm, we don't have to convert the PM file that we download when we are launching any EC2 instance. All right. So once we have configured it, we can then come back. So basically here we can start by using, now first of all, as a part of the hands-on, we can make use of the A cracking and the crunch. So basically here we can get connected. Now once we have defined the instance, if we are doing this on cloud, then we can get connected to the instance by using the SSH baseline that we had discussed, and then we have to enter the credentials and then get started. So basically, if we have multiple ways that we discussed. If we want, we can install it via the Cloud Lab. If you want to deploy it via Cloud Lab, or we can install a VirtualBox, and then we can download the Kali Linux image, and then we can get started. We can choose that part as well. So basically, if we want to get started here, so once we have got connected, so here we can basically here we can make use of the entire package as well, we can simply get started. Just a moment. So first of all, before we can get started, so here we now since this is running on Debian, we can use the command set such as we can use the map package manager to get started on installation of the net tool so that we can use ifconfig and other platform and other tools as a part of the requirement. So here from the app package manager, here we can use apt-get install and then we can define the net tools. So basically why we are going to install net tools so that we can work with the ifconfig and other network tools as a part of scanning the network. So we can, so for installation of the net tools here, we can define apt-get install net tools, and then this is going to install it. All right. And once we have installed the net tool, just to cross check if it is working fine enough, so here we can use ifconfig, and then we would be able to see ifconfig. If ifconfig is working fine, then we would be able to see it up and running as a part of the hands-on. All right. Just a moment, let's configure this. All right, so once we have got connected, so here we can see the entire network configuration tools also available here. Now, first of all, if you want to work with the system here, so here we can use the entire volume parameter as well. That means what exactly we are going to monitor, how exactly we are going to monitor. For example, here we want to use the aim on check. Here we can find the volume. Here we can use it for scanning the entire network as part of the requirement. All right, so here we can now, first of all, here we can start by defining ifconfig, and then we can define the parameters. Suppose if we want to check for all the, again, parameters here, so here we can define the device type, and then we can check, for example, for checking the entire wireless interface, and again, by putting it on the monitor mode, then here we can choose the wireless face as well, depending upon the requirement. Same way, suppose, as let's say, if you want to kill any process that might interfere with the scan process, then we can use the aim on, and then we can use the check part here. So here we can define check part. So for example, let's say if you want, let me just list down all the commands for you all, so you can use it as a reference. So basically, if we want to check the current network, so if we have installed this at your end, so you will be able to simply see, we can run ifconfig, and then for example, if we want to check our current wireless interface, then we can use the device name. For example, here we can define, suppose here we can define the down network here. So here we can check for the current down network by using the ifconfig. Same way we can use it for, we can put the entire network into the monitoring mode as well. For example, here we want to put it in under monitor mode. So here we can define monitor, and then we can simply check for the up mode as well if we want to simply check the upstream. So can you all just try this at your end to see how exactly, if you can all see the entire network results being shown as a part of the color Linux platform? And if you're able to get any kind of issues while we are scanning the entire network, so for example, we can make use of the airborne simply to block any of the network that we may be experiencing. So basically, if there are any process that is blocking the entire command set, and we will be able to simply stop it. For example, suppose now if there are any process that is interfering with the entire scan process, then we can kill the network administrator first. And for that, we can use the among, and then we can check kill. So for installation of nmap, we can use the same apt-get package manager. So here we can use sudo apt-get install nmap, and to see if the nmap has been properly installed or not. So here we can use nmap version to simply check if nmap has been properly installed or not. So we will be able to see the correct version of nmap returned to us as a part of the response. In case nmap has not been configured yet. And now if we want to monitor any of the network here, so here we can define nmap, and here we can define the IP that we are going to monitor. So basically here we can define the IP, and then this is going to simply map the entire report. So here we can see what is the latency, which port currently has been opened up, which port has been currently closed as a part of the entire IP that we are currently trying to monitor. And for example, suppose we want to use it for scanning a host as well. So here we can again make use of Nmap. For example, we want to scan Google. So here we want to scan Microsoft. So here we can define Microsoft. And then this is going to simply scan the host and return the response to us. So currently, we have scanned the Nmap for Microsoft, and here we have seen the entire network report for the Nmap that we currently define. So we can use this mostly for scanning the entire network as a part of the setup. And now suppose say we want to scan a given specific cluster of servers here. We want to get the entire details, that means which particular source is currently opened up, which source is again currently closed, and we can use the Nmap. So for example, suppose we want to scan a single port from a given IP. For example, we had defined earlier, we had defined a single port, correct? Let's say we clear out the screen here. We can use Nmap, and then we can define, suppose we are going to scan port 80 only. So here we can define port 80, and then we can define the IP that we are going to port. For example, we can specify the IP that we have the access to. So here we can define the IP, and then it is going to simply scan a given port instead of scanning all the ports that we want as a part of the setup. And if you want to scan a range of ports, and here we can define the entire range of ports as well. And if we are looking to scan all the given ports here, then we can simply keep the port open, and then we can define scan. So here we can remove the port, and then we can keep the port open for scanning all the given ports here as a part of the setup defined under Nmap. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.